Hello, twisted humans. Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting? Then this is the podcast for you. I'm Alecia. And I'm Sierra, and this is Twisted and Uncorked.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast. This is episode 174, part 1. That means that we're on our serial killer episodes. And today we have a lesser known and kind of unique serial killer to cover, in that he was caught because of completely separate crime, counterfeiting. The crimes that would unfold are so unbelievably sinister, though. So get your drinks ready, twisted humans. But before we get into that, Sierra, are you able to visually see a fun fact for us?
Just barely. If you're watching this on YouTube or Patreon, where we have video, you will see that we are in our final costumes of the season. This is our actual Halloween costumes. And I refuse to say what mine is because I don't want to give anything away. But if you have read all of the A Court of Thorns and Roses books, specifically A Court of Silver Flame, then you will know what my character is. Just know that it is a fairy. Look at my ears.
So cute.
Look at my braided hair, my crown, my mask.
What is your character's name? Are you allowed
I can't
to
tell
me
you
that?
No.
Oh, can I plug?
No.
I was going to say I'll plug my ears, but then I'm like,
No.
I edit this.
It's also a spoiler for everyone else.
Fair enough.
I'm just going to tell you about her. Okay. So, like I said, fairy, crown, mask, braided hair here.
It looks really good.
Okay. This is not my hair.
Oh.
Thanks. So I made it. I made all of this. Okay. I bought
That's
a
impressive.
mask that was black and gold and red, and I cut it up and I spray painted it. And then I bought a crown that was black with red jewels, and then I cut it up and I made these out of glue and I spray painted it. And then I bought weave, literal weave that you weave into your own hair, and I braided it and put it on a headband and put it on my head. So
if I don't tell you enough, you are talented as shit.
Thanks. My crown is breaking. This character in A Court of Silver Flames loves drinking wine and reading romance books.
So she's basically Sierra in fairy form.
Yep. She's my favorite person. And that is why I decided to dress as her, and Jesse is dressing as her boyfriend-ish.
Okay.
So it's gonna be great.
Right. That's book 5, right?
Yes.
Well, I can't wait. Cheers to that. And I will tell you about my costume on my fun fact. So
okay, let me tell you my fun fact.
Do your best to read.
It says the world's heaviest pumpkin weighed 2,600 pounds. That is 1,179.34 kilograms. Also, pumpkins are 90% water, and every single piece of a pumpkin is edible.
I didn't know that. I always peel the skin off when I make pumpkin soup.
It's edible, all of it.
Huh. So my fun fact is about the show in which the character I am dressed up as comes from, Yellowstone. Beth Dunton in the house. So before filming any of Thomas Sheridan's Yellowstone series, actors had to attend cowboy camp. They learned how to ride horses from real cowboys, get to know their horses that they would be using on set, and are immersed in the world of ranching. So there is no doubt that the Duttons know what they're doing when it comes to running a ranch on screen. Bonus fun fact is the real ranch or the Dutton house that you see on TV, you can rent as an Airbnb and stay there for a minimum of 3 nights. It is actually located in Montana. And Beth Dutton was Thomas Sheridan's favorite character in the show because she literally just says what's on her mind, and he loved writing for her. So
Nice.
that's who I'm dressed up as today. And another fact about Beth, much like Sierra's costume, is she likes to drink. So today we are on our rosé. We have a Banshee rosé, which obviously has nothing to do with our case today. But walking down the aisle, I'm like, ooh, Banshee? Naturally, it caught my eye.
Yeah.
This is a rosé from California in Sonoma County. It is made in stainless steel tanks, which makes it unique to winemaking because that doesn't actually happen very often. It is 46% Pinot Noir, 25% Sangiovese, 20% Petite Syrah, 3% Black Muscat, 3% Carrigan, and 2% Syrah. The whole thing is like all of the grapes are pressed with minimal skin contact, and the composites are fermented separately in a cool temperature stainless steel tank. So it gives it a very unique flavor. And then a small portion of the wine is separated and fermented in an aged oak barrel. So you get like both kind of flavor profiles bouncing off each other. It sounds like it would be really expensive. It's not. It's kind of like a mid-range wine at $20. But the tasting notes are what caught my eye. So this particular bottle is from 2022. And it is a lovely shade of pale salmon with aromas of floral, tutti frutti bubblegum, and fresh watermelon.
Yum.
That not just unlock something in you.
Sounds great.
It has hints of minerality and a soft, crisp finish. It's kind of light in acidity and it's more balanced, but it is on the drier side. So I like that it's a balanced wine and not super acidic, but I'm not also a huge fan of dry wines, but I feel like the flavors are so like crisp that it makes up for the dryness to me. So I actually quite like it. And I am drinking it in my skull glass hand that Sierra gave me as a gift 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. Oh, that's so sad. But it's not sad. It's happy that I have that friendship, but sad that I haven't seen your home in that long.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is my wine for today. I see you have your iridescent glass at the ready.
I do. It's just felt like something my character would use. So I was like, I have
and
to.
it's your last fucking day of school that we're recording this. So cheers to that.
It is.
I'm super proud of you. So
Thanks.
cheers. I am so proud. You're going to do amazing. So
Thank you. I do still have to go back to school, but I'm not in school anymore. I just have to keep going until I get my
basically
license.
it's before we get into this week's story and before we hear our promo from our friends, I just wanted to say thank you to our newest patron in the Twisted Bunch, Deanna.
Thank you, Deanna.
Yeah, thank you so much. She also left us a 5-star rating and review pretty much right away. So go be like Deanna and leave those reviews. Join Patreon if you're able to, and come hang out with us over there. It's lots of fun. I also want to say a really big thank you to our longtime listener, patron, and at this point, friend, Naria. She bought us a couple of drinks for our birthday, and she's been in the midst of a move. So she was like, I'm sorry if this is late. It's not late, Naria. I'm just really late to thank you. It's basically the end of October when this episode comes out, but we appreciate you so much. So thank you for those birthday drinks.
Also, a special bonus shout out to Naria because I bet she knows what my costume is. Okay. Naria, I'm counting on you to know.
Guarantee that
Don't
she knows
tell
what it is.
anybody. Just tell me you know.
I am almost done book 1. So when we are finished recording this episode, I will be meandering to go and finish that so I can talk to Sierra about it because I'm super fucking excited. I've been a little delayed because of this week's episode, which we will get to.
Yes.
But before that, we are going to take a quick break to hear a promo from our friends. You know what? Fuck it. In honor of Dagger Mike, we're going to hear from Beyond the Shadows podcast, and we will be right back. So, welcome back. So, this case that we have for you guys today, our serial killer cases always go back to the beginning to find out who we are truly dealing with and how they turned out the way that they did. Within reason, of course, we're not doctors, we can only speculate. I also just wanted to say that there is a lot of conflicting information, both online and in books about this case, to do with the dates specifically. So for our coverage, we are going with what the most amount of sources said. There is also conflicting evidence online with name changes. So I did my best to find the true names of the surviving victims, but if they choose to remain anonymous, they choose to remain anonymous, and we're not here to fuck that up for them. So that said, let's get into it. So James Mitchell DeBardeleben Jr., who would go by Mike.
Good
Sierra's
idea.
face.
Yeah.
That's a fucking mouthful of a
Go
name.
by Mike, because what the fuck was that?
When I was writing my notes, every time I referred to him, I called him DB, like DeBardeleben. I just wrote DB because calling somebody Mike feels like very like friendly, like I know you super well and you're an ass. So I don't really want to call him Mike, but that is what I call him in our notes. So Mike was born on March 20th, 1940 in Little Rock, Arkansas. He was the second of 3 children born to James Sr. and Mary Lou. Being a military family, the DeBardeledens moved around frequently and oftentimes without notice. After Pearl Harbor in December of 1941, James Sr. took a lieutenant position in the United States Army and was posted in Washington, D.C., moving the entire family with him. In 1945, the DeBardeledens were uprooted yet again to Austin, Texas, where James Sr. was shipped off for the next 9 months, leaving Mary Lou to take care of the kids and the home. In 1945, they moved to Kentucky and then quickly to Frankfurt, Germany. Quite the jump.
Oh, yeah.
This created a lot of unease for a young family to be uprooted with 3 kids and a lot of strain on their marriage and tension in the home. Both James Sr. and Mary Lou had affairs during this time, and while they considered divorce, they decided to stick it out for the kids. I wrote in my notes, no, this creates even more negativity in the household. Get a divorce.
Yeah.
I promise you, current child rearing research shows that your kids seeing you happy is better for them.
Exactly. Even if it's not with each other.
It is 1945, though, so it wasn't as commonplace for people to separate. As a result, though, the couple's unhappiness only spiraled from there. Mary Lou was very emotionally unwell and had a healthy extramarital sex life. We don't slut shame, we do cheat shame, though, on the show. And she was an alcoholic, often neglecting her kids. Her drinking would sometimes cause her to become violent as well with them. Mike's sister, Linda, would be forced to grow up a little quicker than anticipated in order to take care of her younger brothers. Mike grew to hate his mother for not caring for and loving them, planting roots in his future hatred towards women. In addition to their mother's abuse, they experienced hardship with James Sr. when he was actually home. His kids were very eager to please him, and he was often quite critical giving them very little praise, and in turn making them pine for his affections even more. In addition to being overly critical of his children, he had a temper and a tendency to be violent with his kids as well. One form of punishment was holding Mike's head underwater in the bathtub and whipping him with the belts at the same time.
What the hell?
Mike turned inward and was quite detached from kids at school. He was described as a loner, preferring to do activities alone. And when he was at home, he spent hours sketching in his room to escape the chaos that he was experiencing. His antisocial behavior only increased as he got older and started to become aggressive towards those around him. By the age of 16, he was lashing out at his mother right back. Now, I will say her hitting her kids is definitely not okay, but it's also not okay for him to beat his mother. Self-defense is one thing, but the altercations between the two of them were described as physical assault. On other occasions, Mike threatened Mary Lou with a hatchet and a letter opener. All very healthy.
Think of how much different everything would have been if she would have just gotten the divorce.
See, it's hard. It's like that nature versus nurture thing. If it like would have made a difference, or
Yeah.
who knows?
Well, she wouldn't be drinking all the time, and he wouldn't be, and then beating, and then he wouldn't be beating her back, and
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
just differences.
It's volatile. On September 8th, 1956, he would purchase 2 handguns and ammunition with a friend, and later that month, he was arrested and convicted of his first of many crimes, possessing a concealed firearm. Not trying to get naked here, my dress is just a little too big. Obviously, this doesn't look great for anyone, let alone somebody still in high school, and he would eventually be expelled, ending his formal education. The same year, in October, he enlisted in the U.S. Air Force and was stationed in Texas. His trouble didn't stop at home, though, and he would be discharged for disorderly behavior. They did try with punishments and having him see a psychiatrist, but he was too unpredictable and unprofessional to have as a member of the force. So, after being discharged at the age of 18, he briefly moved in with some family in the Fort Worth area.
The force.
Not the good kind. He did attempt school again, but was expelled within only 3 months, where he just gave up for good. In August of 1959, he met and married Linda Wire. Wire or Weir.
Wait a minute. In August, he met her and he married her?
Yeah, pretty quickly.
Holy
Because
shit.
their relationship lasted 3 weeks.
Oh. He met her and married her and divorced her.
In 3 weeks' time. Yep. It is unclear what happened here, but given his later crimes, we could only imagine. My personal speculation, though, is they just didn't really know each other that well.
Yeah.
And Mike would go on to be married 5 times. So do with this information what you will.
Perfect.
Later that same month, he was arrested for attempted robbery, and then again, right afterwards, for his involvement in some car thefts in the area. He would be sentenced to 5 years in prison. Mike would move back in with his parents, who learned to fear him completely. They saw him as a loose cannon who was more than capable of killing them. He would have violent outbursts, kicking in doors and lighting fires in his room. And it was during this time that he met 17-year-old Charlotte Weber.
How old is
Keep
he?
in mind, he is now around 20-ish. He did not serve his full 5 years. But Charlotte didn't see him as a scary, violent man at first. She saw him as a rebel without a cause type.
Mm.
Mike and Charlotte would later find out that she was pregnant, and the two got married on June 9th, 1960. On December 12th of that same year, they would welcome a baby girl that they named Bethan. Bethan. The two would go on to have another child together, but were forced by Charlotte's parents to give up the child for adoption. Now, I couldn't see anywhere why. I don't know
Yeah,
if it's
why the
because she was
second,
already
not the
too
first?
young and like already too quick succession pregnancies, or if it was something to do with Mike's temper and like volatile behavior and her not willing to leave. It really is unclear. On August 12th, 1961, and I will give a trigger warning here for self-harm. Mike's younger brother, Ralph, was home on leave from the army. He was 19 at the time, but after an argument with Mike, he went to stay at a motel in the area. When he left, he told their sister Linda that he intended not to return. One would think maybe not to return home, but tragically, he would complete suicide in his car, asphyxiating on the exhaust.
Jeez.
It isn't clear what happened between Ralph and Mike, but Mike claimed the suicide was because of his time in the army, that and his girlfriend had recently broken up with him, and that they had the same tumultuous environment growing up. But either way, it's incredibly tragic. He was 19. All suicides are tragic, but he was just very young.
Yeah.
Later that same year, Mike and Charlotte would get a divorce. Despite not graduating high school, Mike attended classes at 2 different universities, but was unenrolled from the university after he was re-jailed when his probation was revoked. Not
Probation
clear as
revoked.
well why his probation was revoked, but usually it means that you're not keeping up with it.
Yeah. Broke the terms of his agreement at some point.
If he's fucking setting fires in his room, I don't even want to know. When his sentence was finished, he moved back in with his mom and dad. So great for them.
Mm-hmm.
His health was greatly deteriorating, and his outbursts became more volatile and frequent. He took it out on his mom the most, continuing to beat her. Because of his health issues, Mike was brought to the Western State Hospital, and while he was there, he was given a psychology assessment by his parents' urging and was diagnosed as being a sociopath. I'm sure no one is surprised here. Why nothing was done about this, we don't know for sure. But he was deemed a poor candidate for therapy.
Like what? What year
Under
is
what
this?
grounds? This is the late 1950s.
Okay, I guess, but they're fucking stupid.
Agreed. In March of 1964, he began dating 18-year-old Wanda Faye David. It didn't take long for the two to fall in love and to marry in September of that same year.
Okay, I don't like how he keeps getting older and his wives do not.
You literally just took the next sentence out of my notes. Actually, I think I say it after his next wife, but you're putting together the same the same criteria that I am. So, in later interviews, Wanda would describe Mike as being charming and well-groomed and smart. She let her guard down, and she was happy, as you should be in a marriage. But Mike would exploit this by getting her to take racy and sadistic photos with him in the nude. And he would use this against her to be an accomplice in his later crimes.
Oh my gosh. Nude pictures have always been terrible. Don't
Never
do it.
show your face if you're gonna do it, okay?
Yeah, and also your tattoos. So, like, just don't do it. I can't do it at all. I have tattoos everywhere.
But usually when I will never shame somebody for taking a photo of their body. As Myra Rose once said, take photos while you're young. because it doesn't stay like that.
No,
But
I
you're
disagree.
usually your most willing to do that when you're younger, when you don't necessarily have tattoos, when you're maybe in high school and you shouldn't be doing something like
No,
that.
never do it at all unless you're at least 18, maybe 21, and getting paid for it. Otherwise,
Advice with Sierra
don't do
Zeline.
it.
He began to let his walls down, though, and show her more of his true colors. In later interviews, she told investigators that he confided his grotesque sexual fantasies and openly discussed his urges to torture and kill women.
Jesus. This is what, number 3? You thought it was going to be the one you could tell those secrets to? What an idiot.
Wanda would later tell the Secret Service, quote, his greatest thing that he could ever think about was to abduct a woman, torture her, have various sex activities go on, strangle her, watch her die, or blow her brains out with a gun. Then he would hide her so that if she was ever found, there would be no evidence of who had done it. It would be the perfect crime. End
Okay, I'm
quote.
really confused as to how we know this, but he still was able to kill people.
Well, everything is hindsight 2020.
Okay, so
Later
she found
interviews,
this out.
later, yes.
Okay, no,
So,
but he told her.
yes. In
She
the
didn't tell
moment,
anybody?
no. But she was
Come
afraid of him.
on.
He had sex photos of her to exploit
Mm.
her. She was afraid. And so I'm not going to blame Wanda because we do always say if you see something, say something.
I'm not blaming her, but I am upset with her.
It's just so
It's not her fault.
scary.
I just wish she would have acted differently.
I mean, what would you do in that situation, though? You never know until you're in it.
I would at the very least tell you. Like, you
That's
could call
true.
the cops.
And then I would call the cops
Yeah.
on your behalf. Yes, that's fair. Friends are good for that reason. Trusted, close friends. Things get worse and will make you wish that Wanda had acted differently. So in early 1966, Mike DeBardeleben would be arrested for kidnapping and sodomizing a young girl. This was his first known sexual offense, and disgustingly, the court dropped the case after learning that the girl had gotten into the car willingly. And I
How old
wrote in
was
my
this young
notes,
girl?
why the fuck does that matter? Underage, so that her like everything about her is protected. Just a young girl. But because she got into the vehicle, she must have wanted it? Like, what the fuck is that?
Did you know that there is a case currently going on in, I believe, Arkansas, where a man's daughter, 15-year-old daughter, was missing for days? He finally found her, basically being held hostage by a man in a car who was grooming her sexually. And so he fucking shot him. And the man turned out to be a cop. And you know what? I don't fucking care. Good for that dad. I hope he gets off.
Please tell me he's. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I hope he's not
facing
being
murder
charged.
charges. Oh, he is.
Really?
Yeah,
You're protecting your child.
Yeah. They're finding a very good lawyer, and I hope he gets off.
I'm sorry.
because
Somebody kidnapped your
clearly
child and
the
is harming
police-
them.
Yeah, clearly the police are not great at doing things for children. So sometimes adults have to step in.
Yeah. And I was going to say that oftentimes the paperwork and the processes that go along with it seem so daunting and they almost make you feel like an inconvenience. So it's just like better to drop it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I hate it. But as these cases always do, he would escalate and he would do the same thing with one of Wanda's younger male cousins.
Jesus.
So we are seeing a bit of a break in his current pattern here, as he has now assaulted both women and men, young and old. Mike had started to grow violent with Wanda as well. She had been pregnant at one point during their marriage, and after being pushed down a flight of stairs by him, she miscarried.
Ugh.
Now, we know that it is not always easy for victims of domestic violence to escape abusive relationships safely. So we do not blame Wanda for staying during this period. Friendly reminder that there are always resources on our website if anyone finds themselves in a situation like this. I have been there, so there's literally no shame, but it's just really heartbreaking. Thankfully, Wanda would have had enough of Mike's abuse and crime-ridden ways, and she would file for divorce. But during the process of their divorce, she found out that she was pregnant again and would give birth to a daughter named Lindsay. But as far as I'm aware, he has had no part of his two daughters' lives at this point.
He just has the two daughters so far. Okay.
And you know how they say third time's the charm? Well, no. Mike would go on to marry a fourth time at the age of 30. Can you imagine being married 4 times right now? Like, what? Sir. Her name was Corinne or Karen. I couldn't find her last name in any of the sources, so I'm gonna respect her privacy and just she's Karen or Corinne. He keeps going younger though, as she was 12 years younger than him at this point.
Okay, so
Like
she
Sierra
was
mentioned earlier.
20.
If he's 30, minus 10, minus 2, she's 18. I get older, but your lovers stay my age, Sierra.
Yeah. It's Taylor Swift.
The reason that he probably continued to go younger in his marriage was that they were easier to take advantage of, hurt, and exploit.
Also because he was a pedophile, it seems
Yes, he's disgusting.
like.
Mike did not hide any of his darker sides with Corinne, though. He completely degraded her. It was his goal to control her completely. She too would participate in his crimes with fear of exploitation being held over her head. Now, we are not sure what it was about Corinne that left such a large impression with Mike, but he hated her deeply. She was mentioned to a number of his future rape victims and mentioned in tapes eventually recovered by police that Sierra will get to. Humiliation, domination, exploitation, degradation, and having the women around him fear him so much was no longer enough for Mike, and he would eventually turn to murder. But not before honing in his skills on another crime. Petty robbery and auto theft wasn't really giving him the lifestyle that he was looking for. So he would go on to specialize in counterfeiting money, like I said at the beginning of our story. He learned how to print it so that it looked realistic enough and get away with it. He would go on to evade police for years and across 44 states. Which is like, what? That's like all of America.
Yeah. Also, he's like one of the probably main reasons why American money or United States money has changed so often. So fuck this guy. So tired of the changes.
Posing as Frank A. Turner, Mike bought an offset press for $600 from BPS printing service for his counterfeit scheme. He was really smart about it, and that's why he was able to evade police for so long. He would print nothing larger than a $20 bill. He would only make small, inconspicuous purchases and pocket the real change from the purchase. He became so notorious at counterfeiting that he became known as the mall passer. Just like the worst nickname ever, but whatever.
Yeah, that's awful.
Like, usually serial killers have good nicknames, which we don't want news to do. Like, don't make them sound cool, but mall passer, really?
Yeah, what is even happening there?
It's like the Walmart version of a superhero, question mark. Everything that Mike began doing in his life was to fuel his psychosexual sadomasochistic tendencies. He bought a blue 1999 Oldsmobile because it looked kind of like a police car. He purchased a home in a more remote neighborhood with a basement. He had his printing press to be able to bring in funds. It gave him the perfect opportunity to escalate his crimes. He would even cut out newspaper clippings of various crimes to learn from.
Wow.
On June 5th, 1971, 52-year-old real estate agent Edna Terry McDonald drove to Barrington, Rhode Island to meet with a potential buyer for one of her listings. He gave the name Peter Morgan. When she didn't arrive at work the next day, her boss had a look at her calendar and saw that she was meeting a client at the Barrington home the day before and went to make sure that she was okay. She was found hanging in the basement from one of the rafters.
What the fuck?
She had not been robbed or raped and had been strangled with her own stockings.
Jesus.
It would take a survivor in a similar crime to link this back to Mike DeBardeleben years later.
Mm.
On Labor Day long weekend in 1978, Lucy Alexander had been camping with her friends. Her and her boyfriend got into a fight, and she decided to walk the rest of the way back towards their campsite, but had been stopped by Mike DeBardeleben and coaxed into his vehicle, offering her a ride back. He told Lucy that he was an FBI agent and that she was under arrest for hitchhiking. But before she could object, he handcuffed her.
Oh my God.
He then stopped in a remote field where he blindfolded and gagged her before continuing on. Eventually, she would be brought to his home in an empty room with a mattress on the floor. He would then go on to rape Lucy multiple times, sodomize her, and thankfully, because Lucy survives, she would go on to tell investigators that it seemed like he was having a hard time getting off.
Oh
It was
no.
only when she called him daddy that he was able to reach orgasm.
Which one of those fucking ex-wives started that?
I don't know, but it's so gross.
Because
I
you
can't
know
deal with it.
he did not have a good daddy
Mommy
relationship.
relationship or
Yeah.
daddy relationship. Yeah, it's gross. He kept Lucy for the next 18 hours before driving her to an isolated area blindfolded and letting her go. She was only able to get a partial plate number by the time that he drove far enough away that she felt safe enough to pull off her blindfold. On February 4th, 1979, 31-year-old Elizabeth Mason was working at a real estate office alone when a man walked in. He introduced himself as Al and that he was transferring from Arlington with his wife and was looking at homes in the area. She asked him about his budget, what he was looking for in a home, and she offered to set up some showings when his wife was in town, but he was insistent that it be immediately. She met him at a home that she thought would be good, but was getting a really bad feeling about him and actually told her boss where she was going to be going and who she was meeting with, or at least the name that he gave her.
Right.
Unfortunately, Mike DeBardeleben gave her a fake name, but she did at least have a description. He would go on to beat her over the head with the gun, and when he went to pull the trigger, Thankfully, the gun jammed.
Mm.
He went back on with attacking her, but she fought right back. But he hit her in the head and face repeatedly with the gun, yelling, "Die, bitch," in her face. Mike would then bind her wrists and ankles and drag her into the bathroom and shut the door. She had thankfully blacked out, and Mike believed that she would eventually bleed to death just laying there, and he left.
This man is the fucking worst.
It was an empty home for sale, so the chances of anyone being there anytime soon was slim. Thankfully, though, Elizabeth regained consciousness and she managed to hobble to the neighbor's house for help before passing out again. The last thing that she remembered was ringing the doorbell of the home with her chin. Bad bitch alert. A call would come through to the office later asking for her. When Elizabeth responded, it was very clear that the caller was caught off guard. She believes that this was her attacker and that he was surprised that she was still alive.
Makes sense.
She would later go on to identify Mike DeBardeleben as the man who attacked her in a photo lineup and be the reason that he was linked to the charge of Edna McDonald, like I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That he was later charged with the murder of her, I should say. All the while, he was driving around to different malls, hitting up random stores with his under $20 purchases, stocking up on supplies to torture his future victims, and patrolling the area for other women to target. On June 1st, 1979, 20-year-old Lori Jensen locked up the Ocean City convenience store where she was working and started walking home. A man in a dark blue Oldsmobile pulled up behind her on the road and announced that he was a police officer and needed to ask her a few questions. He flashed his badge and opened the passenger door, instructing her to get in. He told her that a man and a woman had just robbed a convenience store and that she matched the description of the woman, so that she was under arrest.
What the fuck?
She explained that she had been at work all day and that her boss could verify that. She gave him the address of her boss in true 1970s fashion and started driving towards the house. But after they drove past it, Lori knew that something wasn't right. The man then handcuffed her and told her that she was still under arrest. He pulled over and bound her ankles, taped her mouth, wrapping the tape all the way around her head, taping over her eyes, and then they drove for what felt like hours before the car stopped. Lori was brought out of the car, led into a home. He brought her to the same small room with a mattress, untaped her, and from what Lori was able to get a glimpse of, the house was very messy with Pepsi bottles, garbage, random tools everywhere in the kitchen outside the door. The man ordered Lori to lay down on the mattress beside him and undress herself, of which she refused to do. So he did it. And much like the experience of Lucy Alexander, Lori was subject to multiple rapes over the next 24 hours before being released. When the man dropped Lori off, he told her that if she went to the police, he would release the naked photos of her that he had taken while she was bound and gagged. As I'm sure you could guess, this mystery man impersonating a police officer was Mike DeBardeleben. And this is where we are going to end part 1, and Sierra will pick back up next week.
This guy sucks.
They all suck, but this one's unique in his suckiness, so.
Yeah. At least he's letting people go, I guess. I don't know.
Right now.
Trying to find the bright side.
The bright side is that out of all of the serial killers that we have covered, he has probably killed the least.
Yeah.
But he's still traumatized and tormented so many people and is awful, 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 awful. So on that note, do you have anything happy to talk about or that you're looking
Mm,
forward to or that you got going on to distract us from this mess?
not specifically. Halloween parties and whatnot coming up. That'll be fun times. Bubba decided to be Jack Skellington for Halloween, so thought you
Yes.
might love that.
Kid after my own heart.
Yeah,
We need photos immediately.
of course.
Kevin refuses to be Jack Skellington for me so that I can be Sally. He just wants to crush my dreams for life. Maybe
How
I should
rude.
fly out there ASAP and be his Sally for
Yeah.
trick or treating. That's awesome. I do not like nobody in my life is throwing a Halloween party, which kind of sucks, but we are gonna go and hand out candy, and dress up and hang out with a couple of family friends. So that'll be nice. And on that note, we are going to roll on out of here. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please do not forget to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you are listening now. It really is the best way to spread the word, and it makes our hearts so, so happy. So go do that right now. We'll wait. And then we will see you next week for Sierra's part 2 of this absolute garbage, horrific case that we are covering. And we love you, and we know you are here for the twisted topics.
Yep.
So we will see you then. And in the meantime,
Keep it twisted.
Twisted and Uncorked is a proud member of Weirding Way Media. Hosted and produced by Sierra Zorn and Alecia Watson. If you like the show, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you are listening now. It really is the best way to spread the word. You can check out all things Twisted on our website, twistedanduncorked.com, and we will see you next Tuesday for a brand new episode.